In this lab, we're going to be learning about web application testing and doing a little bit of exploitation of web application vulnerabilities that we discover. And so the first thing we need to do is we need to fire up the Web for Pentester Lab. And so this is a little odd. And it actually took me a couple tries to figure out exactly how to get this to work, but it's ultimately not that difficult. So the first thing you need to do is you need to go through the process of shutting down each one of these machines in your lab environment. It's just going to make things a little bit easier if everything is off. And actually, this up here, the live ISO, does need to be off to execute this next step. So once you have all your machines turned off, except for your Kali box, of course, we're going to open this guy, right? So to open this, we're going to say mount CD-ROM. And so it's a little weird. You're not actually mounting a CD-ROM, but from the computer's perspective, that's exactly what you're doing. So once this opens up, we are going to select that CD DVD-ROM ISO to mount. And as you can see, it says system must be powered off first. All right, so now that this is open, we want to connect the CD-ROM when the virtual machine power is on. That is correct. Device type, we are going to be choosing a data store ISO file. And then the file path for this one, at least this first part of the lab, we're going to use a couple of others, other parts of the lab, is the Web for Pentester Lab. So go ahead and hit submit. And just like always with the lab, the range, we're going to wait a little bit, wait 15, 30 seconds or so, and then we're going to refresh and, see if this loads. Okay, good. Now, the next thing we need to do is, since this seems to have loaded correctly, is to turn this back on. So we are going to power on the live ISO VM. Okay, so now it's on. And so you'll notice again, I have only these two machines on. I have the ISO, live ISO machine, and I have the Kali Linux machine. And so now we're going to go ahead and I'm going to just log back into this. So we're going to log back into Kali Linux or fire that machine up. All right, and so we need to figure out what the IP address is for this live ISO. You may already know, but if you don't, just to remind you. So we're going to do if config. Okay, and we're going to see that my IP address on my Kali Linux machine is 192.168.2.7, and so we're going to scan our whole network range. And so since only two machines are up, the whatever is not the .7 is and it's also not the .1 is probably going to be our ISO. So let's go ahead and just do an nmap. 192.168.2.0/24. We'll scan the whole range and just give this a second to run. Okay, and so let's just take a look at this. So we have the 192.1.7, which we know is my Kali Linux machine, and then we have this. We know the .1 is the router for our network, so that's not us. And so the only other option it could be is .2. So we know that 192.168.2.2 is our IP address for our ISO. And so remember that because we're going to be using it throughout the various different phases and steps of this lab. So let's grab that IP address. And let's go over to Firefox. And there you go. We are at the Web for Pentester part of the lab, which is where we're going to be doing our initial exploitations. I'm going to pause the video now, and in the next phase of the video, I'm going to walk you through some of these examples so you know how to get through this portion of the lab.
This tutorial was prepared by the Center for Cybersecurity and Privacy Protection at Cleveland Marshall College of Law, Cleveland State University.